Hey everyone, Leo's here. Another Johnson Lightning episode. I have Jan from the team here with me to talk about ArcBox 3.0. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, Leo's here. Another Johnson Lightning episode. It's an exciting episode. I have Jan here with me from the team. We are announcing ArcBox 3.0. Jan, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm fine, Leo. How are you? It's been a while.
It's been a while, definitely. I'm excited about this episode. We've been working on this for a long time. Today, we are announcing ArcBox 3.0. Before we go and do that, Jan, who you are, what is it that you do?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I work as a cloud solution architect in Microsoft based out of Oslo, Norway. And as you stated, I'm also a core maintainer on the Azure Arc Jumpstart team.
Yeah, and you've been working on ArcBox 3.0 for a long time, alongside with the rest of the team. And this is a major release. We'll talk about some of the good things that are coming. The list is long, as you will see. But we're going to talk about all this stuff. You know, ArcBox 3.0, since we released ArcBox for the first time in 2021, it's been a pivotal solution as part of the Jumpstart solution suite. Tons of adoption, a lot of usage, and we made improvements along the way. But I think that this release, is probably the biggest one that we did for ArcBox, if I'm thinking about the last 3-4 years. So I'm excited to have you here, Jan, today with me to talk to me about ArcBox 3.0. So without further ado, let's get going. What we've been cooking this entire time.
Yeah, sure. So let's just give the audience some context on what the ArcBox is. So basically a sandbox environment to get hands-on with Azure Arc. Customers can use it, partners can use it. We use it internally for demo environments, customer presentations, events, and the like. So let's dive into the various flavors of ArcBox and have a look and talk about the new features as we go. So let's start with ITPro. So ITPro is basically a flavor intended for IT professionals working mainly with Arc-enabled servers and SQL. So you get access to, when you deploy the template that we're going to talk about afterwards, you get access to a Hyper-V machine running on Azure that will be a hypervisor. And on top of that, we'll get 5 nested virtual machines, 2 Linux, 3 Windows, and one of those Windows machines is a SQL server. So you can play around with various Arc-enabled SQL components. So a lot of the components on the top here is what you can play around with when the solution is deployed and you have Arc-enabled servers available. But some of the features is new for 3.0. So specifically, Azure Update Manager, it's brand new in 3.0. So now the automation triggers an on-demand assessment so that the user will get an updated view of any available updates available for the Arc-enabled servers, both Linux and Windows. So we're excited about that. The other major one is modernized Azure Monitor workbooks. So being a part of the Azure ecosystem, right, these modernized workbooks integrate seamlessly with all of the other Azure services, such as Azure Update Manager that we just talked about, Azure Monitor, and a lot of the other ones, providing a holistic view of the IT environment. So you can really see how this will look like in your own environment, in this sandbox environment. So that was the second one. The third feature that we added is a new one that is currently in public preview called SSH Posture Control. And that enables you to audit and configure the SSH server security posture on supported Linux distros, including Ubuntu, Red Hat, Azure Linux, and more. So now ArcBox includes an Azure policy assignment for SSH posture control, so that will be ready to see how a policy in audit-only mode is working for users to evaluate the experience. So I think it will be a good idea to have a look at how this looks in practice. So let's transition to a demo environment and have a look at how SSH posture control looks in the portal. So here we are in our resource group that have a newly deployed instance of ArcBox 3.0. If you have a look in the resource group, we get the ArcBox client machine, which is the underlying hypervisor, and on top of that we have these nested virtual machines, right? So we're going to dive into one of the Linux machines as an example, the Ubuntu 1 as the example. Scroll down to machine configuration, because machine configuration is what SSH posture control is using as its vehicle. And then it's assigning a machine configuration called Linux SSH server security baseline. Let's open that one and have a quick peek at how it looks like. This will present all of the SSH settings. By default, it shows only the non-compliant one. So let's just check the compliant box. And then you can see here that we get a holistic view of how the SSH server security posture is. So this is the view for one server. All of this data is also available via the resource graph. So if you go to the other tab here and run this query that is in the documentation and also in the documentation for ArcBox 3.0, run this query, you can see that we can report at scale for, here we see the other machine, right? So you can basically do this across all of your machines and use it in Azure Monitor workbooks. You can alert using Azure Monitor on non-compliance and so forth. So I think this is a really powerful capability.
Yeah, I think that you know, if you look at the previous screen when we saw like the non-compliant machine and all of that, this is actually by design. Like we just wanted to call this out, you know, because at the end of the day, we actually wanted to have a non-compliant environment or half compliant or half non-compliant environment for that matter, because we wanted to showcase the different elements of what it means to work with, you know, with security posture using SSH and, you know, obviously with the Azure policy and machine config at that point. So I just wanted to call that out because as you look at all these reds, you might be alarmed, but that's actually by design that we didn't fix those. So just wanted to call that out.
Yeah, good point, Lior. So in the documentation, you will also find a link to the product documentation for this feature, where you can find more information about how to configure it in enforcement mode and not only audit mode as we have here. So check it out and yeah, learn more in the documentation. So let's transition to the other flavor, that is ArcBox DevOps. So this is a flavor intended for users who want to experience on the Azure Arc-enabled Kubernetes capabilities in a sandbox environment. So maybe, Lior, you can walk us through what has changed here.
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, the DevOps flavor was always kind of an interesting one because, you know, when you think about Arc-enabled Kubernetes, you gotta have to ask yourself, like, what is the added value of this solution, right? So you want to show this, you know, this connection to the DevOps engineers, the platform engineer, and you want to start highlighting those capabilities. One of the things that were really kind of a pain point for us in the past few years when we were starting to, you know, do more optimizations to the DevOps flavor was actually the underlying Kubernetes platform. Now, here's the deal. Like, we really like Cluster API. We really like the Azure provider for Cluster API. But what we realize is that when it comes to automating this solution, we just faced a few challenges that we wanted to avoid. And plus, we also wanted to have a bit more of a lightweight version of Kubernetes. So, you know, one, we'll be able to reduce cost, which is something that we're going to talk about, but also making sure that the automation is more reliable, more consistent, effective, and all those good stuff. So as you can see in the diagram, we actually yanked out Cluster API and the Azure provider, and we replaced that with Ranger K3s. In the case of the DevOps flavor, we're basically going to provision 2 single node clusters for you, one that is pre-configured with all the things that are, you know, that you can explore. So basically kind of a cook and show environment. And the second cluster will be a vanilla cluster, which basically means that it will be empty in the sense of the use cases and the things that you can do it, which obviously we are providing guidance on how to do so in the documentations. So that's improvement number one. Improvement number two, if you are, you know, if you're familiar with the DevOps flavor, you know that we're kind of big on the old GitOps and then service mesh integration to showcase kind of a blue-green rollout deployment of an application on top of an Arc-enabled Kubernetes cluster. So because the open service mesh project was deprecated last year, we still wanted to make sure that we are adhering to our users and still providing with a service mesh experience. So to do that, we actually decided to use one of the most popular service mesh technologies that are out there, or CNCF projects that are out there, and that's Istio. And so we basically implemented Istio on top of the simple application that we have. We're still going to use the Bookstore application. So that is still something that will be there, but the Istio will be the underlying technology in order for you to experience that blue-green rollout deployment of a simple application. Obviously, GitOps is there to to complete the picture and the experience. And as you can see at the top, Microsoft Defender for containers will still be part of the deal, Azure Policy, Azure Monitors, and a bunch of DevOps tools that will be included as part of the client VM. So we're excited about the improvements in the DevOps flavor. And Jan, I think that this is also a good segue for our demo here.
Yeah, sure. So we'll transition to the DataOps architecture, and there we also have the K-trace and copy changes on OSM and Istio. They are also replaced in DataOps. But first, before we dive into that demo, let's just briefly discuss DataOps and also what are the use cases here. So this is a flavor intended for users who want to experience the Arc-enabled SQL managed instance capabilities in a sandbox environment. So here you will get 3 Kubernetes clusters to give you multiple options for exploring capabilities and potential integration. So you'll get a couple of sample applications, the bookstore application and a DB connection application to see how active connections to the different Arc-enabled managed instances works and so forth. But one of the new features that we have added for DataOps in ArcBox 3.0 is on-demand SQL migration assessments. And this will provide detailed evaluations for migrating SQL databases to Azure. So let's dive in and have a look at the demo for that feature. So then we're going to transition to a different resource group. So this is another one where we have the DataOps flavor deployed. Here we're going to go into the Arc-enabled SQL server, ArcBox SQL. Then on the left side, we have migration and assessments. And here the automation have triggered an assessment. So when you deploy DataOps flavor of ArcBox, you will get a pre-run assessment. So you have up-to-date information here about the various migration scenarios. So here we talk about SQL managed instance. So here you can see it's not ready. Then we can go in and see why it's not ready. What are the databases there are issues with? Why are they not compatible? Then we can see the other option for SQL Server on Azure VM, the confidence rating that will go up with the time. So the longer you let the instance run, the more the confidence rating will go up, because then it have more performance data to have its evaluations based on, right? And the last one is for SQL database, the platform as a service offering for Azure SQL DB. So this will really provide you with the hands-on experience on how the SQL estate or the SQL readiness for a migration scenario is in the environment.
Yeah, and Jan, the SQL migration piece is really an interesting one because Arc-enabled SQL Server, or SQL Server enabled by Azure Arc, the new way that they like to call it, it's been booming, definitely. SQL Server, obviously one of the most popular technologies, Microsoft technologies that are out there. But what we've been seeing in the wild is that Arc-enabled SQL Server is really a great mechanism to do this type of migration assessment. So I'm extremely happy that we decided to eventually include that feature as part of ArcBox, because this is most definitely the #1 use case that we're seeing out there when it comes to how people are actually want to take advantage of Arc-enabled SQL Server. So now migration, you can also practice that as part of the ArcBox experience.
Yeah, definitely. So that was a walkthrough of the various new features in the different flavors, but we also have a lot to share on the common improvements that is applicable across the flavors. So let's talk about the first one. The first one is the deployment experience. So it's still possible to deploy ArcBox via the Azure portal for those who are most familiar with the portal experience. So here we have a screenshot of when you click in the ArcBox documentation, the deploy to Azure button, and a screenshot from the actual template deployment. So here we can notice that in the past few months, we have been reviewing our security principles extensively. So in this release, we're very happy to share that the service principal names are no longer a prerequisite to deploy ArcBox. This has been replaced with the managed identity to simplify the user experience and enhance the security. Really excited about that one. And the other one, I know that you are also very excited about that one, Leor, the VM auto logon feature. Maybe you can talk briefly about that one.
Yeah, for sure. The VM auto logon feature is something that, yeah, you're right, Jan. It's something that personally I'm really excited about, because what we heard from our users is that as much as they love ArcBox experience, that that part that we have, like the two automations that are two-part automation, one that is the infrastructure provisioning, which is where you're deploying the Bicep template or the template. But the second part of the automation is for the user to actually interactively log into the client machine so the rest of the automation can run. So with that, basically, we eliminated that feature, that constraint, I should say. And now, after you deploy, if you enable the parameter as true, that process basically will be converged to a single process, so everything will run at once. So the only thing that you need to do is to grab a cup of coffee, come back after a few minutes, ArcBox will be all said and done, and you will start using it without waiting for the PowerShell script, the logon script, to actually finish its job. So the logon script automation is definitely something, and the auto login is definitely something that I'm personally really, really excited about.
Yeah, perfect. And as you can see on the screenshot on the left-hand side, what we will be met by after the script has been run and everything, then you can see that the ArcBox logo is on the desktop, and we can also see something there with small letters. So let's just transition to our instance of ArcBox. So now I'm going to go into our RDP session where we have a pre-deployed ArcBox ITPro edition. So here you can notice something new for 3.0, and that is the deployment status in the bottom left here. So in the past, when the user logged on, you had to go and check out the log files, right? The text files that we have to see if anything failed. But now we have introduced the integration tests based on the tester test framework in PowerShell, the de facto test framework for PowerShell. So the results of those tests are now being presented on the desktop using BG info. So you can see right away, do you have any failed tests? Yes or no. If you have anything else than 0 here, you can go into the logs directory and inspect the logs that you have done in the past. But hopefully this will make it a much more convenient experience. So basically, we have some tests here that are being run. So here you can see that we have some common tests and we have some flavor-specific tests. And if you just do a quick invoke test here, you can see that it's regular tester that is running here and checking all of these things. For example, that the VM exists, that they are onboarded successfully, and so forth. So this is also used on the other flavors, such as DevOps and DataOps. There we're going to check some Kubernetes-specific things, for example, that the clusters are onboarded, that namespaces are in place, and so forth. So this is also something we're really excited about, that we hope that will make the user experience more seamless. Let's dive into the other one regarding deployment. So as we continue to invest in the Bicep language for deploying infrastructure, ArcBox now includes the sample Bicep parameter files. So that replaces the former JSON parameter files, which was, so the new ones are more streamlined, more readable for human beings, right? JSON is more for machines. This is more YAML-like, right? So it's much easier to read, and hopefully it simplifies the creation and the management of the templates, making it more intuitive and hopefully less error-prone.
For sure.
The next common feature that we have added is now all of the automations are being run on PowerShell 7 on the ArcBox client machine. So then we can take advantage of new features, right? Like parallelization. So for each object in PowerShell 7 have this -parallel. So we can, for example, run the onboarding of the Arc-enabled servers in parallel. We can install Azure CLI extensions in parallel. This will really enhance the performance and make the deployment much faster. So PowerShell 7 is now installed both on the client machine for ITPro, but also on the nested VMs, the Linux machines and the Windows machines. So you can play around with new capabilities such as PowerShell remoting to Arc-enabled servers, which does require PowerShell 7. So we have already in ArcBox before 3.0 the capability to log on with SSH via the Arc agent, right? But using that same SSH proxy in Azure Arc, you can now also do PowerShell remoting. So check out the documentation on how to use this feature.
Yeah.
And the other new feature on the automation, this is more on the backend side, but it's also good to just highlight that we are now moving more to declarative configurations in the form of desired state configuration. So DSC for short, it has been around since PowerShell 4, which launched in 2013. So there is a big ecosystem to configure things on, especially the Windows side, Hyper-V, many of the Microsoft technology have DSC resources available. So we leverage what was already available for provisioning VMs, installing Winget packages, and so forth. And talking about Winget, that is also a new feature that we are excited about. So we have basically replaced Chocolatey with Winget as the package manager, and partnered very closely with the Winget team. And you, Lior, you had an episode, right, with the Winget PM a few episodes ago?
Right. A few months back, we had an episode with Dimitrios from the Winget team, and personally, that's one of those things that I'm really excited about, because we've been talking about switching to our own technologies and our own first-party offerings, which is Winget in this case, and move away from Chocolatey. Nothing is wrong with Chocolatey. It's just that we wanted to standardize on more Microsoft oriented solutions, and obviously we have close relationship with the product group, so we're teaming up with the product group, making sure that all our needs are being met, and we have strong collaboration. So I'm really happy that we decided to switch over to Winget.
Yeah, likewise. So let's here is a summary of the new features. So on the left side you have the summary of the automation and infrastructure parts that we have talked through the episode, and on the right side you can see the features that are new across the flavors that we also touched upon.
And Jan, this is such an impressive release, and as you can see, jam-packed with tons of features, improvement, efficiency. I think that if there is one theme that I would put on top of this release, will be reliability. At the end of the day, we wanted to make sure that the deployments are reliable, that you're not failing doing this. This is part of our philosophy in the Jumpstart, making sure that you're not failing doing so. And if you are, we basically take accountability, and we're trying to make sure that none of that will happen in the next time. Another big thing here, as you're looking at this list, is the cost optimization. A lot of the changes, a lot of the kind of tweaks and features and improvements that we did, we always have cost optimization in mind. So I'm happy also to share that across all flavors, we were able to actually reduce the price of ArcBox 3.0. And that is definitely something that you should go and check out in the blog post that will be in the description down below, so you can check it out. And the last thing that I will say here is around the security posture, right? You mentioned a few things here, Jan. I think that the removal of the dependency in service principles is huge. As we are transitioning to more managed identity structure and implementations, that is definitely an important piece when it comes to the security posture, and all the things that's got to do with the policy that is coming on top of things like SSH posture control, and the Microsoft Defender exercises that we have here. Everything has got to do with the fact that we definitely had security in mind in this release.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, Jan, thank you so much for joining me for this episode. It's been awesome to see the progress on ArcBox 3.0. We are extremely excited for everyone to try this out. We're gonna leave the link right here, so you can go and check it out. For the Jumpstart viewers, thank you so much for joining us yet again and believing in what we are doing. Make sure to like, subscribe, and Jan, thank you so much for joining me, and we're gonna see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.